Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Find Your Model Health, the official podcast for those looking to optimize their long-term health and weight goals and understand how their body really works. I am your host. I am Shemaine Linney. I'm a fitness and nutrition expert, certified nutritional therapist, integrative health practitioner, and iridologist. I'm very happy to have you back with me for another piece of your day. I hope you're all keeping very well, and I have a somewhat fun episode for you today. I wanted to go back and look at dark chocolate because I've just recently started another round of my master's guide, and one of the staples in their diet is a good high grade dark chocolate. And a couple of them have been asking, like, why are you so adamant about chocolate? So it had been on my list of things to do to go back over dark chocolate and why I'm like a huge fan of dark chocolate, and just help people understand how this one simple addition to their diet can really make a huge difference in different health markers and even body fat. But before I go on, I must remind you that the information in these podcast episodes is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your health practitioner before making any lifestyle changes. And I just want to mention a new sponsor to the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Treats by Carla. This is a local Airdrie business who specializes in handmade chocolates and other chocolate treats made in a dedicated gluten-free kitchen. She has options for dairy-free and vegan, and you can reach her through Facebook or Instagram at Treats by Carla. I have been consuming Treats by Carla since day one, since the day she opened, because again, I love high quality chocolate, and I recommend her especially to my clients who have issues with IBD, celiac, even non-celiac. They taste so good, you would never notice the difference between the chocolates. Anyway, Carla is happy to offer my clients and followers 10% off their order. So you can find her again at Instagram and Facebook, and that is Treats by Carla. So moving on, dark chocolate. I think most people know it is a health food, but they don't understand why or how. So let's just kind of get a little bit specific or even granular. Dark chocolate, also known as cacao, from the cacao bean, from the cacao tree. Dark chocolate, when I'm talking about dark chocolate, I'm generally talking about 80 to 100% dark chocolate. That means the percentage of cacao and polyphenols that are in this specific chocolate that you're consuming. We will get into the whole polyphenol aspect of things as well. But cacao, which is dark chocolate, is one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. It is actually considered the top superfood, and it comes from the tropical tree Theobroma cacao. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. And then the seeds of the tree, or the fruit, which are pretty big. When you open up a cacao fruit, it's full of the beans or the seeds, and that's where we get our cacao or our chocolate from. The beans then are usually dehydrated and then ground up into a powder, and that's where we get our raw cacao. So it's 100% just powder. And then as that further then gets blended with other ingredients or even processed, when it becomes processed, that's where we see the name change to cocoa. And that's where you also might see a reference to Dutching. When cacao beans are Dutched, they're processed, and then they're soaked in an alkaline solution, which basically just enhances the flavor. This would be better for cooking, but it does remove the benefits that we see in raw cacao powder or that 80 to 100% dark chocolate. So, dark chocolate, it is an acquired taste in the beginning, but I can promise you, once you get into it and once you find one you really like, you will not be able to detach yourself from dark chocolate. You will be glad to have it as a staple in your diet to optimize your health. So, pure cacao has a pH between 5.3 and 5.8. And I'm adding this in because it's important to note that there's a lot of talk around alkaline and acidity, and a lot of these good foods, these very nutritious foods, health promoting foods, they are actually slightly acidic. And 5.3 for dark chocolate, that's pretty acidic. Your body, though, has a way of metabolizing and regulating these foods, especially when it comes to pH. So I just want to throw that in there. Even our good mineral waters are generally around pH of 4, 4.5. So just because something is alkaline and something is acidic doesn't mean it's necessarily bad for you or good for you. It's important to understand how the body works. But when we're looking at dark chocolate or cacao for health, what are we looking at? Well, first, I'm looking at, okay, well, what does dark chocolate contain? Dark chocolate actually contains a lot, especially a lot of minerals. Now, minerals are very important because specifically for the adrenals, the thyroid, and the hormones, they are made up of minerals. So, thyroid, for instance, is made up of iodine. Iodine is mineral. Conversion of thyroid hormone into its active form requires selenium. Selenium is a mineral. When the adrenals are dealing with a lot of stress, one of the first things they burn through is magnesium. Cacao or dark chocolate is actually really high in magnesium, and that could kind of be part of why it's so beneficial when we get to the studies I want to mention, especially around stress and adrenal support and resiliency. Cacao is also high in potassium. Potassium is essential for helping with fluid balance throughout the body. It plays a big part in the sodium-potassium pump between the cells to make sure that the cells are hydrating properly, and we're also balancing the fluids intracellular and extracellular, so inside the cell and outside the cell. Cacao is also great for manganese. A lot of people don't get manganese in their diet, and it's not something that we think of like we think of magnesium. Like, people, I don't even think I ever get asked about manganese and what's its benefits or anything like that. So, but cacao is a great source of manganese, and manganese has a lot of beneficial aspects as well, as do all of the minerals. It's not always wise to just focus on just one. I mean, magnesium is amazing, sodium is amazing, potassium is amazing, but it's not idealistic to just focus on one mineral. We want to have all minerals if we want optimal body functions, and that goes for these organs and the adrenals and the resiliency. So manganese is amazing for stuff people wouldn't even think of. Skin health, hair health. Manganese is so important for lots of different aspects, organ function, even blood flow. Then we have zinc. Cacao is actually really high in zinc. And when we talk about zinc, zinc is amazing for the immune system. It is one of the backbones for the immune system. But zinc is also very, very important for hormones, especially hormone conversion and skin health. Cacao can provide around 20% of our recommended amount of zinc in just 135-gram chocolate bar. Like, that's amazing that you can get this nutrition from just some dark chocolate. So we've got all these minerals. Cacao even has some amino acids. So yes, it does contain protein. And then it has our anti-inflammatory molecules, which people would be more familiar with, our polyphenols, our antioxidants. And cacao is or dark chocolate is one of these foods that's very, very rich, like very rich in polyphenols. And that's why it gets this kind of label or touted as the top superfood in the world. Now, we could be here all day, but I want to just list why I love cacao so much and I promote it so much. So, polyphenols, what are they? Well, polyphenols are beneficial plant compounds that have antioxidant properties, and these antioxidant properties, they help to scavenge free radicals, reduce oxidative stress, and even oxidation in the body. And we think of oxidation as being rusting, like a gate would rust if it's always out in the storms or the rains, like wear and tear. Well, that oxidation, that rusting happens in the human body too, and these polyphenols can be very protective against that. The free radical scavenging, I've spoke about that before, and the analogy I like to use is if you think of free radicals like one of those pinball machines. You pull back the pinball and the ball just goes around banging off everything, smashing everything up. That's what a free radical is like inside your body. It's just banging off everything, messing things up, breaking things, smashing things. It's just going haywire. Well, these free radical scavengers, these antioxidants, they come in and they control this ball, this pinball. They donate an electron, which then calms it down, neutralizes it, and then it can be escorted out of the body. So cacao powder is very rich in polyphenols, and because of that, it can help us slow down and control this damage, this rusting, this stress that happens to the body, which not only is a factor in illness and disease, but it's also a factor in aging. When we think of aging and inflammation, thinking of our wrinkles, our aches and pains, our skin integrity starts to decline, cognitive performance declines, just that overall wear and tear that happens with aging. Well, dark chocolate has a lot of research showing that it can have an anti-aging benefit and obviously slow down all this, but also reduce inflammations. And this is a multi-pronged kind of attack from dark chocolate and cacao, from all different kind of aspects. We could get really granular, but I don't think you guys really want to or need to know about that. But there are a load of studies on the consumption of dark chocolate and cacao powder for reducing inflammation, reducing preeclampsia during pregnancy, lowering the risk of coronary heart disease, decreasing risk of heart failure. I could go on and on. There are literally hundreds of studies on dark chocolate and cacao powder. So within this category of polyphenols, so again, polyphenols are beneficial plant compounds with antioxidant properties. Within that, we then have flavonoids, which no doubt you'll have heard me mention flavonoids a lot. I'm a huge fan of flavonoids. They're one of our sirtuin genetic activators. They really are health activators, and you'll find flavonoids in dark chocolate, blueberries, red wine, extra virgin olive oil, like they're around. But flavonoids, they're basically a family of these polyphenolic compounds, which we find them widespread through food, especially our whole foods. When I'm talking to my clients, I'm saying you want to focus on foods that are rich in polyphenols because not only do they include these flavonoids that can have triggers or signaling factors for positive genetic expression and outcomes, they also contain other things like tannins, which can be very beneficial, especially when we look at the vagus nerve and digestion. Resveratrol, a lot of people will have heard of that. Resveratrol is one of our sirtuin activators as well. There's a lot of research around resveratrol for reducing inflammation, anti-aging, activating our skinny genes. But flavonoids are a family of these polyphenols. Now, cacao powder is very rich in flavonoids, along with all these minerals that I've mentioned. And because of that, It can have significant effects on many different markers of health. When I'm looking at dark chocolate, it's a staple for my clients. They're either consuming a good organic dark chocolate daily, or they're having some cacao powder. Ideally, it's going to be organic raw cacao powder, because I don't want it being processed. I don't want it breaking down the enzymes so much or degrading the nutrient profile or the polyphenol levels in it. So, and even dark chocolate, so good for your gut. We'll get into that, but dark chocolate is actually a great source of fiber. And a lot of people don't realize that dark chocolate has fiber. And there's so many reasons why dark chocolate can be beneficial for the gastrointestinal tract when we look at the polyphenol aspect of it, the bitterness, the tartness, and then of course zinc. Zinc is very important for gastrointestinal health, but fiber, many of us know you need fiber. You need fiber to create bulk, but also to feed those little microbes that hang around in your gut and help to make you healthy. So copper is another thing before we move on. While it's on my mind, copper, probably the most underrated mineral in my opinion. It doesn't get as much attention as it should. Copper is essential for energy production, right down into the mitochondria. Copper helps with energy producing enzymes. If you are deficient in copper, you're going to have some issues with energy production. A lot of people who get diagnosed with anemia or an iron deficiency, it's actually a copper deficiency. You need copper to transport and metabolize and utilize iron. If you have low copper in your blood, in your diet, you're going to have issues utilizing iron for energy production. So copper is found in dark chocolate, and again, a really easy way to get copper in. I would, in all honesty, prefer to just have people eat all of these foods that are going to give them all these nutrients they need and not supplement. We can do that to an extent, but unfortunately, the way we live nowadays and the way our food is grown and whatnot, we do need to supplement. But where we can avoid supplementation and use these whole foods instead, why would we not do that? So back to our polyphenols. In dark chocolate, there is a powerful antioxidant compound called catechins, and people may recognize catechins from green tea. The research around catechins shows that it has amazing support for heart health and cardiovascular health. Dark chocolate, in one study titled The Effect of Polyphenol-Rich Dark Chocolate on Salivary Cortisol and Mood in Adults, showed that dark chocolate lowers cortisol levels. The finding from this small-scale study indicate lowering of salivary cortisol levels following consumption of polyphenol-rich dark chocolate in adults. Again, polyphenol-rich means the darker the better. Once you start going into milk and white chocolate, there's pretty much no polyphenols left in those. So another study that I stated recently, it was only like a day ago, I think. I came across this study while doing my research that basically showed that dark chocolate can reduce visceral fat. Visceral fat being that hard fat that is underneath our muscles and wraps around our organs. That's what we would consider the dangerous bad fat. I sometimes refer to it as a stress belly when the belly is more round and hard. You'll see it in some men. They have a very round, hard stomach and they almost look pregnant. That's visceral fat. And in this study, visceral fat was reduced by 70% due to the stearic acid fed to the group compared to a diet with no stearic acid. Dark chocolate is actually very high in stearic acid. Another reason to add dark chocolate into your days. So let's keep going. It's because I want to list some more studies, but it's because cacao or dark chocolate contains, apart from all the minerals, and minerals are essential for life, like essential. You want anything to function or work properly, you need minerals, especially for hormones and organ function and energy production. You need minerals. But on top of that, cacao contains more of these polyphenols or phenolic antioxidants than most foods. And within here, we have the flavonoids, like I mentioned, the catechins, we have epicatechins and procyanidins, which are really the strongholds in dark chocolate's antioxidant activity because they have, to not get a little bit too sciencey, but they have a tricyclic structure of the flavonoids, which determines how strong or how effective the antioxidant effects are, especially for scavenging these free radicals or ROS, which are reactive oxygen species, pretty much the same thing. And then you combine that with the iron and the copper, and you encourage enzyme activity and you upregulate antioxidant defenses. This one food is amazing. The epicatechin content of cacao is primarily responsible for its bitterness and then its favorable impact on the vascular endothelium system, which has both an acute and chronic upregulation of nitric oxide production, which helps in turn with cardiovascular health. And these cardiovascular effects are also mediated through the anti-inflammatory effects of cacao's polyphenols. And then they get regulated through other activity, through detoxification and other antioxidant aspects. There also is antioxidant effects of cacao that directly influence insulin resistance. Now, that could be through the inflammatory pathway, that could be the polyphenols influencing genetic expression or the microbiome, but we do see that there is a connection here where cacao can influence insulin resistance and, of course, then in turn reduce the risk for diabetes. We also see there are some other aspects where cacao consumption may stimulate changes in redox signaling pathways. So basically, back to that gene expression I was talking about, and supporting and upregulating the immune response. If you want to see a lot of this research, I'm going to list some more studies, but there's one great one on PubMed called Cacao and Chocolate in Human Health and Disease. That is a great, easy to read article. So you might like to check that out. It also talks about how cacao can protect nerves from injury and inflammation again, protect the skin from oxidative damage from UV radiation, has beneficial effects on satiety. That would be influencing our leptin hormone, and back to that insulin sensitivity, has benefits for cognitive function and mood. Cacao is, the research suggests that the benefits of cacao chocolate is expanse, and it is something that you should add into your diet. That's something really easy. So a few more studies that I really like and I have shared with my clients. So we mentioned that one around stress, and I'm just going to repeat that because I think this is really important. It's probably like whatever my clients do in the morning, their routines in the morning are setting them up to support their whole system as the day goes on. Most of us have a lot of stress in our lives. It's just the nature of the beast nowadays. So first thing in the morning, you really want to be filling up those nutrient and vitamin pools. You want to be backloading certain nutrients, backload your water, so that as the day goes on, your body almost has these, well, we would call them pools, like amino acid pools, but it has like reserves that it can pull from as you're going through your day. And you want to make sure that it has these extra minerals and nutrients so that when the stress becomes a lot, that it has the support or the tools that it needs. So that study again was the effect of polyphenol rich diet, dark chocolate on salivary cortisol, and mood in adults. And it showed that dark chocolate consumption indicated a lowering of salivary cortisol levels. And also, there's another one on resiliency that I really liked, and I shared that with one of my groups recently. I really, really liked that one. So, dark chocolate in this study showed that not only does it help to lower cortisol, dark chocolate can also improve resiliency. Dark chocolate, again, rich in the minerals that your adrenals need, but the abundance of polyphenols have been shown to support the body's resiliency to stress even further. So if you're starting your day off with dark chocolate, you can then help the adrenals be more resilient, but cope with the day a lot better as it goes on. And this is one of my favorite studies, I think, around dark chocolate. Another one is cognitive performance. I get asked about cognitive performance a lot and how I stay so sharp and how I can remember everything. And I've always put it down to a polyphenol rich diet. And that would also go for my weight maintenance. And I've been maintaining my goal weight now since 2008. For those of you that know or don't know, I lost 165 pounds. And there is research showing us that a polyphenol rich diet does support the not only the maintenance weight, but encourages the loss of body fat due to the polyphenols again, and how they influence the microbiome as well. And even the vagus nerve and digestion, and just helping everything work better. But part of that is the brain. Like, if your brain is not working optimally, you're really going to struggle to stay on track. You're going to struggle with willpower to make good choices, to make good decisions. So part of what I've attributed my not only my weight success to, but also my cognitive performance is having a polyphenol rich diet. That's not just dark chocolate every day. That is, I drink a lot of teas, black coffee, green tea, yerba mate. I have a lot of blueberries. I have a lot of polyphenol rich foods in my diet. I supplement with ginkgo biloba, which is rich in polyphenols. But back to the brain. If your brain's not working properly, you're really going to struggle with life choices, whether or not that's for nutrition and exercise and health, or if that's to build a business or whatever you want to accomplish in life. You want your brain to be optimal. Now, in cacao, we see in research, and this is actually touted in the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation as well, that its flavonoids may increase blood flow to the brain, which often decreases with aging and in neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's. So cacao flavonoids, because they encourage blood flow, they may also have an anti-inflammatory effect and antioxidant role that affects the brain health as well. We've known for a long time, I think, that the flavonols in cacao have neuroprotective effects, and they can help to enhance numerous aspects of brain health because of these antioxidants, and especially that epicatechin. And these substances, they display several beneficial actions on the brain. They enter the brain and induce widespread stimulation of brain perfusion. They also provoke the angiogenesis, so better blood flow, neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons and brain cells, and changes in neuron morphology, mainly in regions involved in learning and memory. So this study is titled The Neuroprotective Effects of Cacao Flavonols and Its Influence on Cognitive Performance. Epicatechin improves various aspects of cognition in animals and humans. Chocolate also induces positive effects on mood and is often consumed under emotional stress. Yeah, we all know that. But generally, when people are having emotional stress, they're not going for dark chocolate, they're going for the more sugary stuff. But hopefully, this will make you think twice and go towards the good dark chocolate. In addition, flavonoids preserve cognitive abilities during aging rats, lowering the risk for developing Alzheimer's disease and decrease the risk of stroke in humans. In addition to their beneficial effects on the vascular system and on cerebral blood flow, flavonoids interact with signaling cascades involving protein and lipid kinases that lead to the inhibition of neuronal death by apoptosis induced by neurotoxins such as oxygen radicals, back to the free radicals, and promote neuron survival and synaptic plasticity. So we'll end that at there. Basically, this says that the polyphenols in cacao powder are directly involved in learning and memory and encouraging the growth of brain cells and neuron and preserving cognitive abilities, helping to prevent cognitive decline and even the risk of developing Alzheimer's with age, and protecting against like the damaging effects of inflammation and these free radicals and that rusting that also would happen in your brain. So if you're not encouraged so far to eat dark chocolate, I'm not finished. I'm not finished. There's lots more because the big one I get is about cardiovascular health as well and the endothelium health. And we see that dark chocolate, not only does it help with nitric oxide, which can be involved in vasodilation. I had mentioned already that dark chocolate is rich in stearic acid, and stearic acid really does it does a lot of great things, but most people have never heard of it or they don't know what it is. So the stearic acid, as I mentioned, which is rich in cacao butter and cacao powder and really good dark chocolate, it helps, like I said, reduce visceral fat by 70%. But this one is also amazing. The stearic acid in cacao powder protects the heart from linolenic acid. Linolenic acid is one of our PUFAs, one of our polyunsaturated fats, which can cause a lot of damage throughout the whole system, but especially the heart. It can affect your inflammatory pathways on many levels. And polyunsaturated fatty acids, or the bad fats that I would call them, trans fats, greasy foods, they're probably more problematic than most other molecules. They're probably the biggest driver of illness and disease and activating that inflammatory and immune response way more than sugar. And this is my opinion. But this one study, going back to what I just mentioned there, in protecting the heart, there's one titled Chocolate and Prevention of Cardiovascular Disease, a systemic review. And in this one, it mentioned how it was hypothesized to reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. But the more research that comes out, the findings suggest that dark chocolate and cacao may exert beneficial effects on cardiovascular risk via effects on lowering blood pressure, anti-inflammation, anti-platelet function, higher HDL, and decreased LDL oxidation. Additionally, a large body of trials of stearic acid suggest it is indeed cholesterol neutral. However, epidemiological studies of serum and stearic acid are inconclusive. So, regardless, the flavonoid content and the stearic acid has been shown to reduce risk of cardiovascular disease and even mortality. There was another study, I can't find this now, I would have to go looking for, but this one basically showed dark chocolate being amazing for coughs and respiratory health. If I'm remembering correctly, I would have shared this quite a long time ago, but I think it was either the tannins or the polyphenols in it. I believe I shared this research back when COVID was at its height and people had a lot of respiratory issues. And let me see, can I find it? So it was dark chocolate for coughing or cacao for coughing. And I just got reminded of another great. Yeah, chocolate is a better cough suppressant than medicine, according to this one study, which is you'll find this in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which basically stated that the properties of cacao are demulcent and help relieve irritation and inflammation. This simply means it is stickier and more viscose than standard cough medicine, so it forms a coating which protects nerve endings in the throat, which trigger the urge to cough. There's one more study, because I know I could keep going on. It really is my favorite food. Like, it really is. Well, I remember when I was overweight, my favorite food used to be fries, and now my favorite food is like dark chocolate and black coffee. Um, I have two studies here that I'm going to wrap it up with. I could go on and on and on. Like, people comment on my skin all the time, and I say, yep, I'm pretty confident that's all the polyphenols I'm getting, and that would be the dark chocolate, the black coffee. We could get into how it all influences the microbiome and maintaining and encouraging weight loss. But these two studies show that dark chocolate increases stem cell production twofold. I recently did a podcast with a guest on stem cells and the importance of them. Look, if you don't have optimal stem cells, you're not going to heal and regenerate. So it's important that whatever dietary practice you're doing or protocol, that it encourages the growth of new stem cells, especially when you sleep, because that's when we get these produced. But there's two studies here. One of them states that at the University of California, San Francisco, researchers found that participants who received a chocolate drink made twice a day with cacao for 30 days had twice as many stem cells in their circulation as the control group. Stem cells, so important for health, building muscle, building brain cells, regeneration of any tissue. You need stem cell immunity, stem cells. You need stem cells. One of these studies I'm going to direct you towards here is this San Francisco one, the University of California, San Francisco. You can just Google it. It's titled Cacao Flavanols Improve Vascular and Blood Pressure Measures for Coronary Artery Disease in Patients, and part of that through was the upregulation of stem cells. Should I go on? I don't know. I could go on for days about the benefits of dark chocolate. But back to one specific client who asked why. Help me understand why you're recommending dark chocolate so much, and it might encourage me to eat it. Because, yeah, in the beginning, dark chocolate, it is bitter. It's super bitter. And if you're not accustomed to eating bitter, tart, sour foods, it's not going to be very appealing. But over time, as taste buds change, which they do, we see that people start to love dark chocolate. A lot of my clients say they can't live without dark chocolate. Like, it's become their favorite health food. I've mentioned gut health. I've mentioned brain health. It's amazing as a natural prebiotic and modbiotic. That high fiber, high polyphenol content makes it an amazing tool for helping with IBS and IBD. It helps with our feel-good hormones. It helps with dopamine, tryptophan, serotonin. There's one caveat I want to add at the end here. Well, maybe two. But we've got the cardiovascular protection. We've got the endothelium protection. We've got supporting adrenals and their resiliency, lowering cortisol, lowering visceral fat, improving skin health. I really could go on. I want to add in though, there was one I missed. This study, I swear this will be the last one. Timing of chocolate intake affects hunger, substrate oxidation, and the microbiota. And you can just Google that, it'll pop up. Apart from the caffeine aspect of dark chocolate, which I'll mention next, the research shows us that consuming dark chocolate in the morning is optimal because, and this is partially why my clients have dark chocolate in the morning. So, morning chocolate reduced waist circumference and spontaneously reduced participants' daily energy intake by 16% compared to no chocolate. Evening chocolate had no effect on waist circumference and slightly reduced energy intake. So, one win for morning chocolate there. The next one, fasting blood sugar was also differentially affected by the timing of chocolate intake. Morning chocolate decreased fasting glucose by 4.4% compared to no chocolate. And this, my friends, comes back to the polyphenols, the minerals, the stearic acid, all that good stuff. While eating chocolate increased, compared to no chocolate, while eating chocolate increased fasting glucose by 4.9%. So eating chocolate in the evening increased fasting glucose by 4.9% compared to morning chocolate. Big difference there. Next, the microbiome composition was different depending on whether chocolate was consumed in the morning versus evening, which makes sense since the bacteria in our gut are on a circadian rhythm too. Just like us and our hormones, and different species are active depending on the time of the day. So this randomized control trial found that eating 100 grams of chocolate for 12 weeks has differential effects on waist circumference, hunger, metabolism, fasting glucose, and the microbiome. And that was morning versus evening consumption, and morning consumption won hands down. So, friends, if you're not convinced to eat dark chocolate daily, I cannot help you anymore because the research is abundant. There are hundreds and hundreds of studies on the benefits of dark chocolate. And I mean hundreds. You can go look for them. One of my favorite resources for information is Green Med Info. Now, with that said, I always encourage organic, 80 to 100%. So I want a really good dark chocolate. And some brands are better than others. And some brands, just like supplements, have better processing methods than others and better efficacy and whatnot. But regardless, organic, 80 to 100%. I do have some exceptions when I'm going under 80%. Also, I will remind you, because someone said this yesterday and I laughed. Dark chocolate is very high in caffeine. So you do not want to consume that in the evening. You do not want to consume really any caffeine after noon. In my opinion, the half-life of caffeine is 5 to 6 hours. So 6 hours after having caffeine, you still have 50% of the caffeine left. The 3/4 life is like 10 to 12 hours. So it takes quite a while for your body to metabolize caffeine. Some people faster than others, and there's lots of different reasons there: liver damage, genetics, whatnot. But dark chocolate is high in caffeine regardless. So I don't recommend you have dark chocolate after noon. Some people it'll be after 10. If there's any sort of adrenal dysfunction, as I mentioned, dark chocolate can be amazing, but you probably want to be having that earlier in the morning, 8 or 9 a.m., rather than later in the morning to support those adrenals, but to also offset that caffeine aspect of it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I found it really fun to do. I think you can pick up that I'm very passionate about dark chocolate and all foods that are rich in polyphenols. I really think they are the key to optimal health, maintaining a good body weight, and longevity. So, polyphenols for everyone. Thank you again to our sponsor, Treats by Carla. I hope you share this with anyone you think needs to be encouraged to consume dark chocolate. This episode was a little bit longer because I really wanted to make sure you were convinced by the end of the podcast. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. You can reach out to me Facebook, Instagram, My website, shemainsmodelhealth.com, has a contact me button. I'm happy to answer. I hope you all have a great day. As always, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't, and I will chat to you guys again soon. Take care. Bye bye.